Let's talk about logos. Have you ever thought about how this logo was created? And what about this one? Why does it look the way it does? What makes a good logo and why should I care in the first place? Well, it turns out that today I've had to create my own, and this is the story. As a teenager, I used to believe that only big companies and talented designers could create those familiar symbols that we see everywhere. But recently, I've been exploring how logos have evolved through the years. Take Nike, for instance. Did you know that their famous swoosh symbol wasn't their first choice? Their famous logo was actually designed by a student for just $35. Yet, it's now one of the most recognizable logos globally. Similarly, Apple's first logo depicted Isaac Newton under a tree with an apple poised to fall on his head. Quite different from the simple apple silhouette we recognize today. Oh, and by the way, the only reason the apple has a bite taken out of it instead of being whole is to provide a frame of scale, preventing confusion with a cherry. So, what makes a good logo then? For me, it boils down to one word: simplicity. Think about McDonald's golden arches or the Twitter bird. They're simple yet instantly recognizable. Personally, I think a logo should be easy to remember and reflect the brand's name. But now that I think about it, I haven't even introduced you to my brand's name, have I? Okay, so why theJourny? And why is it missing a letter? All the work that I do today, I am able to do not because I learned it in college or an online workshop. I've learned it from content creators who have shared their knowledge for free on platforms just like this one. And I love that side of the internet. I love that there are people willing to put that amount of effort into helping others. And I wanted to do the same. I wanted to be able to create a resource that I myself would have consumed back then when I was learning all of this. A channel tailor-made for my younger self. And the way I decided to do it was through sharing my entire journey, every step of the way, almost like a journal of the things that I do, so that I can learn from what I do right and avoid the mistakes. So coming up with the name wasn't that hard after all. A journal of my journey? theJourny. Since now we have a baseline understanding of what my logo needs to represent, and we were talking about providing valuable information that I would have advised my younger self, I'm going to do that. I'm going to share with you some tips I would have advised my younger self. Let's call them Wammies. No, better yet, Wammies. Yeah, Wammies. I like that. Okay. Ready for some Wammies? The first that I would suggest to myself is to understand my own brand, and in this case I want a logo that conveys motion or movement, since it is going to represent a journey. When creating a logo, start with black and white. The contrast will make it easier to assess. Colors can be added later in the process. Keep it simple and memorable. Try asking a friend to take a look at it and ask him to replicate it a couple of hours later and see for yourself how memorable and simple it really is. Cut it, blur it, make it tiny, Make sure it is recognizable even under the most extreme situations. It takes time. Don't try to find the perfect logo on the first day. It'll show up eventually, just keep working on it. And the most important tip that I would suggest to my younger self is that it doesn't need to be perfect. Find one that feels right, that roughly follows the logo conventions everyone talks about, and go along with it. And if you don't believe me, here's a prime example. Remember how that student created the Nike logo? Well, this is what the co-founder of that company said when he first saw it. So, with all that said and done, here is my new logo.